Alex Grinch, you're doing a heck of a job for the most part, but today the Oklahoma defense was back to being the Oklahoma defense. So Wildcats win it of Kansas State at home against Oklahoma 48-41. We're going to talk about the game itself and, of course, the playoff implications for the Sooners. This could be a deadly blow for a football team that, of course, aims to win the Big 12, but is now in competition possibly with a one-loss champion from another conference, namely the Pac-12. Oklahoma raced out to a lead of 17-7, and we thought the Sooners had the game in hand. It was 10-0, 17-7, and they last had the lead at 20-14. And Kansas State came into the game at 4-2. The Wildcats have looked like a decent football team under Chris Kleiman, but they couldn't compete with Oklahoma, of course, as a 22-point underdog in this one. This actually turned out to be the fifth biggest upset in the Big 12 over the past decade. If you look at point spreads and the money line odds, this was the fifth biggest upset in the Big 12 over the past decade as Oklahoma falls to Kansas State 48-41. So Jalen Hurts was doing his thing. He finished 19 of 26, 395 yards passing. Jalen Hurts, believe this, Alabama fans, Jalen Hurts is now throwing for 395 yards against a pretty good Kansas State defense. This is what he has become under Lincoln Riley. Very efficient, very dynamic in the passing game as well. So Jalen Hurts did not lose this game. He had 95 yards rushing. He accounted for 4 total touchdowns. He did make a few mistakes and made some less than good decisions at times. But over the course of 75 to 80 plays in a football game, Jalen Hurts was not the reason Oklahoma lost. He played another exceptional game. CeeDee Lamb is fun to watch. He made some tremendous plays, one in which Oklahoma was down at one point 48-23, and he made a huge play to get Oklahoma back in the game with about 12 minutes left, in which he just ran through so many defenders and so many would-be tacklers to get the Sooners again back in the game. So we're jumping ahead. Let's jump back. Skylar Thompson, he was killing the Oklahoma defense with quarterback draws and quarterback keepers on the sweep. And we've seen Kansas State quarterbacks in this mold for quite some time, going back to Colin Klein and Michael Bishop. Michael Bishop could really heave it. But a lot of Kansas State quarterbacks that were a bit limited in the passing game, not dynamic future NFL-type throwers, but could really hurt a defense with their not just elusiveness, but decent straight-line speed, but just ability to break tackles and know where to run and where to read the blocks. Skylar Thompson's in the mold of these Kansas State quarterbacks. He threw for 213. He rushed for 4 touchdowns. And again, many of them were quarterback draws designed, or he would just break contain and see the lane and go. And then they also found some running room for him in taking the quarterback sweep, which you don't see too many teams do anymore, just a straight sweep with the quarterback. Big mistakes in this game by Oklahoma. So we had one in which Charleston Rambo was the recipient, or should have been the recipient, of a halfback option pass on the left side, or on the right side, and Rambo just flat out missed the ball. The ball hit him right in the chest. It was a great throw by Baskine, and Rambo dropped it, and it shot right back to A.J. Parker with the interception. So that was one time. So we rag a bit on the Oklahoma defense and giving up 48 points in this game, but 2 of the touchdown drives by Kansas State went all of 14 and 25 yards because of mistakes by Oklahoma. So Oklahoma lost this game due to poor defense, but also key mistakes in this game. So this was the first one. The Rambo drop turns into the A.J. Parker interception and a very short field for Kansas State to score the touchdown and start to lead the comeback once they were down 17-7. And then, of course, Oklahoma just took it from there. Kansas State just took it from there. They won on a 41-6 run to turn a 17-7 deficit into a 48-23 rout. The Sooner fans were headed to the exits in Manhattan at that point. Oklahoma went on a frantic rally in the final 12 minutes of play. We highlighted that with the CeeDee Lamb play in which he just split a zillion defenders, done a ton of guys miss, and went 70 yards for the touchdown to make it 48-30. They got another touchdown. They kicked the field goal on a 4th down play to make it a 48-38 or a 48-41 game, and then the controversial onside kick. So we saw that it was executed by Oklahoma. It got kicked downfield. They recovered. So I would have loved to have seen that finish. Not that I'm less than happy with the Kansas State win, because I love upsets in college football. This is actually Kansas State's first time beating Oklahoma in Manhattan since 1996. But for the sake of the football game and just seeing the drama play out, I would have loved to have seen Oklahoma with the ball at the Kansas State, 30-yard line, with about 1:45 left to play, and down by a touchdown, needing a touchdown to stay alive. That would have been real drama. What we got was an onside kick that looked like it was executed well by both the kicker and the offensive team, kicking the ball downfield, and then just kicked downfield, and the Oklahoma player recovered. But there was illegal touching on the play, 1 yard shy of the 10 yards that the ball had to travel to be legal to be touched by the kicking team. Now, Lincoln Riley made a good point after the game. Now, was that player that touched the football and barely touched the football? They had to look at it forever to figure out if the Oklahoma player actually touched the football. Once it was determined that he did, it was Lincoln Riley's understanding that if the player who touched the ball for the kicking team was engaged with a player from the opposing squad, then that didn't count, that it was still a legal onside kick. Can somebody check that out for me? I was actually going to look that up, and I failed to do so. But that was Lincoln Riley's claim. He said that they had a controversial play in a similar manner against Baylor his first year at Oklahoma, and it didn't turn out well for them in that one either. Needless to say, the officials ruled that the ball was touched 1 yard shy of 10 yards, therefore an illegal touching situation for Oklahoma. Game over. We never got to see Jalen Hurts on the field against a Kansas State defense with the game on the line and needing a touchdown to tie to go to overtime. Would have loved to have seen that. But Kansas State brought a balanced offense, 213 yards passing, 213 rushing. Gilbert had a big day with 105 rushing. We mentioned the exploits of Skylar Thompson, and this Kansas State team seems to be on the roll. Seems to be an up-and-coming program who apparently hired the right coach for this program. Chris Kleiman has done a fantastic job. They're 5-2 now. They have won some decent ball games, and they go to Kansas to take on a Kansas Jayhawk team that's very fortunate to have won today against Texas Tech. Oklahoma is now 7-1. According to ESPN, its college football playoff chances have dropped from 49% to 9%. And Oklahoma's next game after a bye week is against Iowa State on November 9th. So for Oklahoma, first of all, they've got to take care of business themselves. They really don't play anybody else the rest of the season. Other than Iowa State and Baylor, they would be the resume-building games, but also potential losses, of course. And then they've got a rematch possibly with Texas, but now Texas lost to TCU. Texas now has 2 losses in the Big 12, so that is up for grabs. It could be an Oklahoma-Baylor Big 12 championship game. That's certainly in play. So Oklahoma's going to have to beat Texas again or Baylor twice, or a number of other teams are still in the running for second place. And now even Oklahoma is vulnerable if they would lose again to drop out of a Big 12 championship game or put themselves into a college football playoff scenario. So Oklahoma not in the best position right now, having lost to an unranked team on the road in this one, 48-41, and basically getting manhandled in the second half. Oklahoma's defense was back to being pretty marginal in this one. They didn't play awful. Again, 2 short touchdown drives by Kansas State inflated the point total of 48. Oklahoma gave up 426 total yards. What do you think about Oklahoma's chances of making the playoffs now? It should be interesting. Of course, the first inaugural college football playoff rankings come out on Tuesday, and we will break it down right here at Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Please like, comment, share the videos, and subscribe to the best debate, discussion, and analysis you will find right here at Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football.